Hey everybody, Daryl Davey here with Oaken Hollow Games, and I hope that you are all doing well. I'm down here in the game room side of things today, and I finally have some new news for Capture the Flag. So I just got our beta cards in the mail. Now, well, I guess super excited for them. They feel really nice. I'll show you. They are the size of business cards. We've been testing those, and so far I've really liked the size and feel of the business card size for the measurement tool and for the bases. It allows you to play on kind of a smaller space. And even though the designs are not done yet, these are, I mean, especially like the logo is about as generic as you can get. I had it to put a logo on the back and say it anyways, so logo needs some doing, and these are fine for now, but I think they could be spiced up. I kind of like the speed of the lines, and like the simplisticness of it. It's supposed to be able to be seen from a while. Hi Leo, how you doing? So yeah, so design-wise, this is not finished yet, but a beta version at the very least, which means we'll be able to start playtesting with more people soon. But I haven't gone into a ton of detail on how Capture the Flag works. I've kind of said some things here and there, but I figured it's finally time to do a video where we are actually going into a little bit more of the rules and how this plays. So for those of you who have tuned into the last couple of videos, a bit of this is going to be review, but it'll summate everything kind of nicely and give you the whole goal. So the goal of Capture the Flag is to have a game that is manageable. We're hoping to get tins this size to bring anywhere with you. We want a game that is able to be put in a pocket, put in a backpack, taken camping, taken on the bus, taken to school, played on the playground, played on the dirt, and just plopped on a table and go. Now, you can certainly, like, I've built some little tools and dioramas for it and stuff, but the goal is to be able to play it anywhere, to put it on a table and that table be the play space. So how I've been kind of explaining it to some folks is that it's my first war game. So war games are, you know, like the great-grandfather of D&D. You know, you have dudes on a board, there's rules for measurements and engaging and how they move and how they interact, and then you have, like, scatter terrain and stuff on the table, or on your board, that, you know, used to represent, like, military places, or places of historical import, where, like, oh, this is such and such a camp, or this is a ford they had to cross, and this is a fort they had to get into, and you would set up and work out scenarios. It was a way of, like, strategizing war, and then it turned into more of a fun game, and then turned into more things where it's like, well, this can be turned into lots of things, where there's, like, Warhammer 40k,000, and all sorts of other things, Frostgrave, and so on and so forth. Even X-Wing Miniatures is a war game. You know, you have movement templates, they fly around, they have a dogfight, but you put guys on a board and they fight. There's measurements and this and that. So what the goal of our Capture the Flag is to just water that down as much as we can, while still making it fun, and be able to play with anything, anywhere. So, like, some of the examples, like, I got a coaster here, and, you know, card box, and the box itself. I'm going to take the camera for a minute, and the goal would be, here, I'll set something up real quick. Give you an overhead view of how a board may be set up and look. And then we'll use that as our example of play here. So there are some rules to, like, keep some things apart, but come with me on this journey here for a moment. What it would be is you would have just stuff that's scattered on your desk at school, or maybe a picnic table or the floor, and you would set up your jail, your flag, and your opponent would do the same. And you would start all by touching the flag. And your goal is, just like in regular capture of the flag, is to go and capture your opponent's flag and then bring it back to your team's jail or scoring pad. With these things acting as terrain, things that are in the way, whether it's a pen or a pencil or this coaster. And the fun of this is it's going to be different every time you play, because you'll play in different environments or you'll set the table up. And one of the reasons why we're doing smaller stuff is so that you can get more bang for your buck in your space. Like, unintentionally, here, another overhead shot, our Oak and Hollow Games playmat, the circle in it is about 2 feet wide, which is about as big as I would suggest this game being. You don't want to run around forever. This does take a while to get anywhere with a card this size, but it gives you a little area that's about the size of a student's desk, or as I work with a lot of kids, so that's where my mind goes, is kind of the target audience would be kids, but all the adults I played with this have had a ton of fun too. Or you're in a tent, you don't have a lot of space to play, you got your backpack out or your shoes, and you're like, okay, we're going to go over the shoelace, we're going to climb up this shoe, and you're going to play Capture the Flag, and it's like being a kid again. You're playing with the stuff that's around you, and I think there's a simple joy to that. And these pieces can interact by climbing, vaulting, all sorts of stuff over those objects that are in the field. So how, in a nutshell, this game is played is movement is based off of these cards. Each of your 3 teammates, they have a base. You will choose to either move the full distance length, so long distance, or a short distance. You do have to go the full distance, and you'll put one side up to the base, and you just put the other side, boom, you've moved. Anyone who knows war games is very familiar with that. Sometimes a unit can move 3 inches or 4 inches if they're fast, maybe 7 if they're a scout. They can really go out there. But you have the choice on this of moving long or short. Again, keep it simplistic. And short being just a little bit over half a distance of long. So there's a bit of finesse when it comes to that. But you do have to move that full space. Why are you moving? Well, if you happen to move into another player, let's say you're here, if you happen to move into somebody, boop, it'll stop your movement. That person is tagged, and they are placed in your jail. There's some rules about getting out of jail and jail breaks and stuff, but that takes one of their players off of the field. It's not killing, it's not shooting a distance, it's just, hey, I tagged you, I ran into you, tagged you, you go to jail. And then your goal is to get from, I'll bring one of the flags in there. They're like a skirmish's king's piece. Effectively the same thing, but if your player moves into that flag, they continue their movement on with that flag in tow. And now this player has the flag, and their goal is to get back to their colored base and touch it while they still have the flag. Hey AJ, how's it going? Nice to have you here. Appreciate you stopping in. So that's it. Kind of in a nutshell. Seems pretty basic. One of the big things that gives it a little bit of zest is each turn there is numbers currently. It'll be marked as a 2-player game. I'll go into a little bit more on some other stuff that may come out later for it. But you'll get numbers 1 through 6. You'll put those face down at the start of a round. You'll shuffle them up. The last person to go picks first. You'll pick out of the pile, and you get to pick I picked a 2. I get to put this 2 by any one of my players. And that's the turn order they will move in. And this goes back and forth at that point. They pick and choose. And there's some strategy of maybe you want to move later, maybe you want to move first, you want to strike first to get a tag, or maybe you want to see where people are. If you might have the flag so you can, route your course elsewhere. So that numbering system kind of keeps things more interesting and keeps you on your toes strategy-wise. It's a little bit of a random element, but not so much that it's, to me, a detrimental thing. And it keeps things fair. Sometimes you just run a little bit faster when you're playing Capture the Flag as a kid. It's a burst of energy. Maybe they react a bit faster. So that's kind of how they're reacting in that order. Once they've all been used, they're just set aside, turn face down, shuffled, and play goes again. If, let's say, like this example we have red in here, we'll just take the 6, because there's 6 players, 3 on each team, out of play. So it's only 1 through 5 until that 6th player returns. To get somebody out, you just have to touch your opponent's base with your guy, touch it anywhere on there, and they are set out 1 short distance outside of it. We will do a playthrough of this game at some point with more of the granular details, but again, this is just an overview of how this one plays. And again, just because I got the new cards, I wanted to show those off. They look really nice, I think, for some demo cards. Like, certainly some work on them I need to do, but nicer than what I've been using. So they have those, again, for the turn order. And the last thing that's recently changed in our playtests is they used to, like our trick-or-treaters in All Hallows Eve or our fighters in Skirmish, they used to have an ability each. Each one had something. There was a blocker, a runner, and a tagger. Well, everybody kind of does everything when you're playing Capture the Flag. And it really had turned into, I've used all this time and this energy to get my blocker to a certain spot, and he gets tagged because someone got initiative, and it's a big bummer. And it throws your whole strategy out, and you're like, well, it's just a bad feeling. So instead of them each having an individual ability, like in Capture the Flag, sure, maybe one kid's a little faster, one kid's a little bit longer arms. Again, we've watered it down, and you get 3 action cards. So they're, at the time of making this video, you use 1 action card, or you can use an action card once in an entire game. So once your 3 actions have been used, they're gone. But there is sprint, reach, and block. Sprint allows you to use whatever the opposite length you use. So if you ran a long distance, you could then also run a short distance. If you ran a short distance, you can also run a long. And you'd say, all right, I'm using sprint on my guy. I'm going to give him a little bit more. Reach means you can tag somebody a short distance away. So they really stretch out and they tag somebody that short distance away. That was reach. And then block is kind of like an angel guard. It disallows anybody from ending their movement within a short distance of one of your players. You can use all 3 of them in one turn. You can use all 3 of them on one guy. You can use 2 in one turn. The only rule with them is that they can only be used once in a game at this time. And you can only use them on the active player's turn. So, like, if this guy is moving 3, I can't use any of my cards on him until it's his turn to move. So when you use them might be strategic. The reason right now we're only having them once an entire game is because even on a small space, this game can take a little while. We want to keep it moving kind of quick. We don't want it to just be this big, long drag out. Like, it's fun. It's almost plays in 2 parts. It's the who's going to get to the flag first is like the first half of the game, and then the second half is like, how do I defend them from getting to back to their home base. So keeping these for those vital times is really, really important, and it's really fun. And so far, it's just played good to only use them once. That could change. There could be more of these right now. I'm not thinking so. Again, for simplicity and for speed, I don't believe we will have more. But this is in a demo, it's beta version, so we will be testing these shortly. So any of that could change depending on what the playtesters like. So yeah, so it goes back and forth. You are trying to get to your opponent's flag, you get into it, and then you are trying to bring it back to your colored base. So if I have the red flag, I'm playing blue, and I'm way over here. I have to touch my home base, which is the enemy's jail, and go all the way back. So how you place your flag, where you place your jail. When there's a jailbreak, all of those guys from your opponent's team bust out of your jail. So if your flag happens to be right by where your jail is, and they all get out, they can get it right away, and then they have advantage running back. So there's a lot of fun strategy with as few rules as this game has. I had mentioned some of the terrain as well. There are additional rules in the book that you just discussed with your opponent before starting, which ones you want to use. Climbing and vaulting are two of the big ones, where if you are touching an object, let's say this is in the playing field, if you end your turn touching an object that is shorter than a short run, the next turn you can spend your action to climb on top of it, and now you can move around on top of that. And when you're done, jumping down is free. You can like do a long jump and just like yeet yourself off. And then vaulting, I think I've used a die for an example before. Vaulting is where you are going to jump over an object. Sometimes there's a pencil in the playing field, and you want to get over there. As long as your measurement card can go through, you line your card up to where your guy is, it goes through the object, and you vault over, jump over it, and just end on the other side of that. You don't move your full length. And then that puts an obstacle maybe between being tagged and you and your opponent, and so far, because you can't tag up at this moment, and you can't tag over something as well. You also can't move through people or jump over people. That's kind of been discussed. But really, especially when it comes to like scatter terrain, people love making that stuff. The world is your oyster. You could make Legos, you could make blocks, you could do traditional scatter terrain, or you can just use stuff that's lying around. And honestly, I think that's the most fun. I've left my desk kind of messy intentionally here, so I'll just do a quick buzz. Like, a fun game might be over in this corner here, where you could vault over this part of the charger or climb up on top of this and make a run and see if you can get to that. Or you have to climb up on top of the laptop and you have this whole space to play on until you go back down. So there's just fun, interesting ways to be able to use the stuff around you that I think people will really enjoy. The cards themselves right now, like I said, the artwork is not done, especially the logo is super generic, but I just wanted to get some better cards for playtesting. These are a little bit more rigid, and they have like a kind of like a grain to them. They're nice, and they're a bit more sturdy than like even regular business cards. But I had mentioned that there might be some more not expansions, but additional stuff where I have also printed off 2 other color sets for green and for white as well. That would play, like you can get the red and blue set, or you can get the green and white set to play, and then you could have 3 or 4 players. Other ways of playing, maybe you have a group of kids you're playing with, each person controls one guy, and they get 1 action card they get to choose from. So you could have 6 people playing at a time as like an actual like group of folks. That could be fun. You know, different teams, you can get different flags and try and run back. And I just think it's fun. The only thing that gets a little bit hairy with that is then our number counters have to go up to how many of our players are playing. So if we had all 4 colors, it's 3 counters a piece. So that's 12 of these. And we have tokens, so I don't know if the white and green will be sold as explicitly a like expansion where you get numbers 7 through 12, or maybe I don't want to put each set with 12 because I think that would confuse people. They're like, why do I have these extra things here and there? So you could double up. You get 2 boxes. You keep the same, you know, only 1 jail and 1 flag, but you just double up your teammates, and then you double up the amount of these things you have. So you could have 6 players playing. I don't know. I think they're going to be a lot of fun with all that, and this is going to be relatively cheap to make and fast to make, which is huge for us. So that means that it should be pretty affordable for people who want to get into the hobby, and a nice starting place for people who want to check out like wargaming stuff. But that was kind of a quick overview on it. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I wasn't hyper prepared. These weren't supposed to be in for a couple more days. Was super excited when I saw them in the mail. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And like I said, we will be doing demos and play tests of this to work out any of the kinks that we find. I played with my brother-in-law over Easter break, and Phil a few times, and some other folks and some of the kids at school. And yeah, it seems to be going well, but testing is needed, and then just finalizing some designs. And this one, I could expect being out within the year pretty easily, and probably within a couple of months. Truly, it wouldn't take us long to get this up and running. Oh, Leo, no, I'm not getting the printer figured out yet. That's a separate test. This is more focused on our Capture the Flag right now. It is the last update I had is the last update for that right now. I've redone the models. I got one print off, and there was still some failures. And then one of the files wasn't working that had been working before. So I redid that today as well. And I haven't had a chance to run it through yet. It's close. It's frustratingly close to where I know there's just a few little tweaks here and there, and it's that consistent where it's printing accurately the whole time. I've been getting some good prints out of it, but it's every single time I want it to be working correctly, and we're not at that. There's some elephant footing on the bottom of the prints, and that might have something to do with the Z-axis, but this doesn't have a Z-axis adjustment, really. So that also could tell me that I'm curing them too long on the bottom, but if I don't cure them long enough, then they don't adhere to the plate. So every little thing I do takes 3 hours to print something out to see if it works, a couple hours to either adjust my files, and then I have to, typically if there's a print failure, I have to clean out and reset the entire base and printer, which takes a lot of effort as well. So it's a long and messy process. So it's not something that goes quick, and it's something that I have been dreading for a while, but we are getting closer and closer. Those Pokemon figures were all successful, which is very good. And a few of my things have been printing off, and every once in a while you're going to get a failure. Even if something that's been worked 100 times, it'll fail once out of that, but it's nowhere near that point. I haven't had a fully successful plate yet, and I want to get 2 or 3 of those before I call it a success and I start rolling. Time being what it is, maybe I have to put the fine-tuning aside and just start printing out in mass what's working, and then using my separate printers to print the stuff that's not working, which is fine. I'm still saving a lot of time doing things that way, but it'd be really nice to get it dialed in, but just not there yet, and it's gonna take a while. And it's between 3 different jobs and life, being a dad and a husband and other commitments and other games and stuff, so it takes time. But that being said, I will probably monkey with it a little bit tonight. I did get some new figures done, or did some adjusting on some of the models tonight, so I might try to get one through, if it's not a big pain in the butt to clean that out tonight, after dinner and dishes and stuff here. So there might be a post later on that, Leo, but as of this point, nothing substantial. I will make a big post on it's finally working 100%. So until you hear that post, no, we're not quite there yet, but we are getting closer, which is nice. So all that to say, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you for tuning in. If you are just catching it now, feel free to watch this again a little bit later. I'll be posting it on this and our YouTube channel. feel free to comment, look at some other stuff. Again, this is just a really quick summary of the rules of how Capture the Flag is going to work. And we will be doing a playtest of that soon. I don't know when, but get some people over and bust out a few rounds, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll keep you posted on those dates information as well. But until then, I hope you all have a wonderful day and have a good week.